to Beer Temple Podcast, July 7th, 2022.
This is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard, seen from again. Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard, seen from again.
Ooh, I'll tell you one thing that's dead on here is the fades. The fades have only gotten better.
Wow.
Yeah. Welcome, everyone, to...
To what?
To the Beer Temple Podcast.
There's...
I'm your host, one of your co-hosts, I should say, Chris Quinn.
Today you're the host.
And I'm joined by...
Mike Schlau.
We sound great in this studio, although you can hear a little bit of partying going on.
That's part of the charm, though, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
The best episodes are always when there was a reggaeton festival happening in the background of our quiet discussion about
that's true.
Who sold to whom.
Yeah, in fact, we should probably shut that door at some point.
That might be the
that might help. But I want to thank everyone who's out there listening to us live on the airwaves. WLPN LP Chicago 105.5 FM. That's right, we are broadcasting live, old school. We are here at Studio B in Bridgeport. We are actually at the WLPN headquarters.
Yep.
Feels good to be back.
It does feel good to be back. It is nice in here, actually.
Yeah, it's very nice.
It always was extremely nice. Don't get me wrong. Always the best. But
there's some serious improvements as well. There's AC in here now.
That's weird.
Yes.
You can hear it probably.
Yeah, I can hear it. I can hear the AC. But hey, I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
This podcast is about us, not the listeners, so we're going to leave the AC on.
Yeah, there's fancy chairs. There's a whole bunch of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
A nice big board.
We invited Bridgeport's favorite son on the episode.
I think it's one of the primary reasons we came down here.
And
in fact, we were going to do it last week, and he couldn't be on last week, so we delayed. So we canceled the show to come on this week.
And he is not here.
And he's not here. He was texting me as I was being introed without my headphones on, and that's why I just blurted out whatever it was that I said. But for the faithful listeners, the faithful listeners will not at all be alarmed. In fact, they're probably more alarmed when that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
They're like, uh-oh, what's up? But I want to thank everyone who is listening all the same, whether it's over the airwaves or via your favorite podcast app, however you listen to your podcasts. And I want to thank specifically Mr. Jamie Trecker for having us in, allowing us to trash his studio. We got to that real quick. And he will, tomorrow morning when he's here at 5 in the morning, remember why he hates having us.
I don't think we could possibly undo what we've done to this studio so far. So, sorry, Jamie.
Just got to dig our way out.
It is some Mad Max style things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But it's going to get worse before it gets better. So, here we are. I also want to thank the Fade Master, somebody who just doesn't skip a beat, whether he's at Studio BT, Studio B, doesn't matter. Perfect fades. Edmar is calling me on the air. I'm on the air, Ed. I'm literally on the air right now. I can't really hear you. What's up?
Put him on speaker.
Oh, okay. All right, hold on.
That I'm driving from the north side.
Oh, okay.
From Beer Temple, where I thought it was happening.
Oh.
And I'm back down there. I'm just kidding. I'm just making.
Okay.
Oh, okay. That'd be amazing. I mean, I would be very surprised if that were the case. But yeah.
Western Avenue. I'll be there in 20 minutes.
Okay. I'll see you. See you later. Bye.
I mean, if we thought anything else was going to happen, then we were sorely mistaken.
Yes, exactly. So I guess, we already introduced the most senior member in accordance to how we're supposed to. So the most senior member gets introduced first. So we are going to do an Insiders Roundtable style show this week. Is there anything that you wanted to add before we get to introducing the guests? Mr. Shalal?
No, I don't think so. Was there something I was supposed to add?
Is there any beer that you're excited to drink or
There we
try
go.
or bring or anything like that?
Yeah, actually. So a friend of the show, Stephen J. from the Philly area in Pennsylvania,
Go Birds.
DM'd me on Instagram talking about how he wanted to try some of the Is-Was beers, and he said he lived right by Forest in Maine. So me as a civilian non-business owner sent him a box of beers, and he sent some back. And so specifically, I really liked one called The Lady, which is like canned conditioned saison that they made. They do a super cool thing where every season they pick flowers off of a tree in the front yard. I don't know. They've moved, so I don't know what the protocol is anymore. But this was the protocol. They picked up like flowers off the tree and things from around their yard, and put it in wort and grew up their own saison yeast for that season, and they would use that in all their saisons. And it was just a beautiful, lightly tart, lovely saison in a can that I really enjoyed, and I wanted to thank Steven, give him a shout out.
Very nice.
And he
Thank
sent me
you,
like this
Steven.
wonderful little write up of all the beers and all the things he sent, and I can't appreciate it enough. They really are inspirational beers for me. I love what they're doing with saison.
Yeah, absolutely. Likewise, I'm very excited to try any of the styles that you've brought for me to try. And I'm drinking a lager right now.
Not that you would care about this specifically, but there is a mild.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'll get to that.
Yeah.
See
Maybe.
what it's all about. See
We'll
what
see.
that style's all about.
Yeah.
I've heard about it, mostly from social media influencers.
Yeah, it's just a mild, so.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's with a. Never mind. No
Is it
Z,
a-
There's no Z.
Yeah. No, it's just mild. Just mild is all it is. It's a pastry mild, though.
It is. It's in a can, so I don't know if we can count that, but it's pretty
Hey.
cool. I wanted to get one of those. Like they do this thing called March Mildness, where during March whoever drinks the most mild like wins something. I don't know.
Wins.
I
Just
just kind of
wins.
like the
Wins
idea of it more than I
another
care about what's going
You
on.
win.
But when they couldn't have people come in, they filled like bladders, essentially like wine bladders that go in the box to get your box wine. But they did that with mild because it's like cask conditioned
Yeah,
in there.
box
and so you
mild.
could get a box of mild. And I tried really hard to get some of those, but no one was
Willing.
no dice. But one day I will drink mild out of a box.
Well, now that you know Steve.
Steve, if you ever come across one of those,
Mild in a bladder.
yeah, pay handsomely for it. Slap
Mild
the bag.
in a box.
We'll play slap
Mild
the
in a
bag.
bag in a box.
Play slap the bag with the mild.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm very excited about that. So I brought a couple beers that I'm excited about. Little known beer to people who listen to this show. Little known beer called Headhunter from Fatheads. I think it's like less than a week old. So
It's no good anymore.
no good. Also brought some very fresh Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, and some Bauhaus from
It's a good one.
Art History.
That was a
Yes.
good one.
So very much looking forward to that, and some Zinneber from De La Senne, just to round it out.
Gross.
Yeah, also pretty fresh. So. Yeah, it looks like we're going to be drinking good tonight. But let's get going. I swear I'm not killing time to allow Edmar to race down Western Avenue. He sent me a bunch of texts, one of which was I supposed to be on tonight? So, so anyway, but he's already been introduced. But our next guest is a returning guest. It's been a while. I think the last time he was
been
on
a
the
while.
show, been a while. Since he's been down here. But last time he was here, I believe it was Studio B, Mr. Nick Pankey of Revolution Brewing. What's up, dude?
Living the dream.
How you been? I mean,
Good.
I saw you earlier today, but it's fine.
Yeah, this is it's been quite a few years, but this is my first time as a beer insider and not just a beer drinker.
Oh yeah.
true.
So I've got all new perspectives.
Yes. And what do you do at Revolution? Why don't you let everyone know?
I'm the engineering and maintenance manager out there, and I also head up safety and sustainability.
Very cool.
Nice.
Wear a bunch of hats.
Yeah.
It's fun.
safely.
Sustainable hats.
Hard hats.
Hard hats made out of sustainable turtle shells.
Exactly.
Yes,
Only
the most sustainable.
The turtles are already dead, guys.
Yeah.
It's just a way to reuse them.
After I killed them, they were already dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. It's good to be back on. And
Yeah, man.
I brought a beer called Huey from a brewery I had never heard of until yesterday. Emancipation Brewing out of Fairbury.
Okay.
They came by the brewery to pick up some barrels and brought beer. Like, that's a great perk.
Classic.
Everyone just brings us beer.
Yeah.
So we get to try a lot of this stuff. But it's just a really nice, like, simple, clean, golden ale made with locally grown hops, Sugar Creek malt.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so
All the cool kids are using Sugar Creek malt now.
all the cool, rich
It's really
kids.
delicious.
Yeah. Caleb. I keep
He's
hearing
the
about
man.
Caleb at Sugar Creek. Everyone's talking about him.
Very cool.
Everyone's on a first name basis
We should-
with him.
we
I don't
should
even
get-
know him, and I'm on a first name
We
basis.
should get him
with
on the show sometime.
Caleb.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll just ask anybody because
Well-
they all seem to love him and work with him. so.
Everyone just says Caleb because no one knows how to pronounce his last name.
Oh, got it. Yeah. I mean, I've only heard him referred to as Caleb at Sugar Creek Malt.
It's probably one of those names that when he's like, it's just phonetic, you're like, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But until you hear that, you're like, I'm just going to, we're on a first name basis.
Yeah, exactly. Is there any beer that you've had lately, Nick, or that you're looking forward to having that has excited you or is exciting in anticipation?
Yeah, we just released our pre-prohibition pills, which is quite enjoyable.
Nice.
I'm definitely embracing I work at a brewery, so I only drink
Yes.
Pilsners and lagers. Like, that's it.
It's a real thing.
Yeah. We're doing our Freedom Fest this weekend, so we've got like 15 different of our sour variants. Some really cool flavors. We got like a lemon tea blend that we're going to test out.
This sounds like a Spindrift influenced.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
You got a spinfluencer working with you?
It's weird. We're doing raspberry lime, lemon,
Mango.
pineapple.
Strawberry kiwi.
Every meeting, this creative genius Doug comes in with a different type of Spindrift.
Yeah. You just happen to look like you look in the recycling bin right outside the meeting room and see what's the empty on top. What's the flavor?
We just replace
raspberry lime, maybe? I don't know.
we can replace entire meetings by looking at like the Costco flyer and see what's on sale that week.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, thanks for coming all the way down here.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thanks for being early, as a matter of fact.
Always.
So, we've dispensed with. See, I'm not used to being here. I used to have my rhythm. We would go through it, then we would talk about beers we've had. Mike suggested that maybe we could shorten it up a bit by doing the intros and talking about the beers.
that was
a little
Doug.
bit.
That was not me.
Oh, never mind.
That was
Never mind.
very innovative of him.
Yeah, it was
Got him.
quite innovative. So we could get right into the thick of it and just start talking about the primary thing. I mean, we might want to wait for Edmar to talk about Stone selling, but I mean, I guess we don't have to. We could talk about modern time. I mean, we have all sorts of San Diego breweries that have sold or gone under lately.
Wait, is there news with Modern Times?
Well, you heard that they were sold at auction, right? Did you not hear
No.
that? Okay. Yeah. So
I mean, I knew they shrunk significantly.
so Maui put in a bid
Okay.
to buy them. Looked like it was going to go through, and
That was like the stalking horse bid, right? Where it's like, if no one else beats this, and then they get it. It's like, it was still a great deal for them
right.
to get all the assets.
But then, and this is again in classic Insiders Roundtable, this is basic industry knowledge that I'm about to botch, and it's also like 2 weeks old. But so then Brewery X, which at first I thought was just like we don't want to be told, but no,
Right.
their name is literally Brewery X. And they are known to me. They're known to me as the brewery that made an IPA in a 16-ounce can that was supposed to look like a can of tennis balls. So it's supposed to look
kinda
like
fun.
Prince tennis balls.
Hold on, because I just Googled this to make sure you were saying the right thing. And 6 hours ago, the San Diego Tribune posted Modern Times sale, Brewery X drops out after winning auction.
Whoa.
So, breaking news 6 hours ago, like who could possibly have pivoted that quickly?
But that's Pacific time, so it's only like 4 hours ago to us.
It's
true.
That's,
Or is it
that's
8?
tomorrow, I
Is it 8?
think.
Yeah.
It's the future.
So we're seeing into the future again.
Yeah, it says the subtitle is affiliate Anaheim's Brewery X elects not to go ahead with the acquisition, leaving backup bidder Maui Brewing next in line to buy San Diego's Modern Times.
Well, it seemed like that
This
was a
seems
bigger
like-
bid, and then the rumor, or what I had read, or maybe I forget which one it is. It was I either read it or it was a rumor, was that they went with the lower bid from Brewery X because they could get money faster. The money wasn't going to be held up for as long.
Got it.
And they needed $400,000 in like 2 weeks to pay for payroll. So they took less money because they had like immediate operating expenses, which is brutal for paychecks not to go out, because then you're done then. I mean, you are like kaput.
Yeah, that's it.
So that's what I had heard, but now that didn't happen, and also Maui. So who knows what's going to happen? So wow, that fell through.
Have they announced what the price was or anything
It was
like that?
it was very low from what I remember. It was something like 40 million, 20 million, something low. Again, this is
15.
15 million.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really low.
Yeah.
I'm trying to. I don't have a subscription to the
To
San
the
Diego
Brewbound?
Tribune.
Oh.
I don't use
Behind
San Diego
a paywall?
Well, it's the
Paywall?
San Diego
Paywall.
Tribune. It's not like a local paper I'm reading all that much, to be honest.
This is good. We've got our man on the scene, a.k.a. has...
Listen, you started this.
I'm
but
on
I
the
started-
scene. I'm currently standing in front of the paywall. I'm trying to get on the other side of it.
I think my name's on the list somewhere,
yeah.
sir. Nope, you can't get me on the
Listen,
paywall.
if you guys would subscribe to the Patreon, we could have a subscription to the San Diego Journal, but
true.
none of you guys have subscribed to the Patreon we haven't created yet. So it's really the listeners.
I've got an insider. The pop-up, you can still kind of see the content behind it, and if you scroll your finger up and hold it, you can read a couple more
It literally
lines.
was that it was fading away, and I was like, it says that it updated it to get comments from Maui, and the comments aren't there. So, well, I tried my best.
Well, there you are.
I didn't know that was going to be on the pop quiz today. So,
Yeah, well, it wasn't going to be, but the other thing is I have my I can't get on the internet either, so my outline, we are really just nailing being back in Studio B. So let me see. Actually, I can pull it up. Okay, cool. Yeah, so we can talk about that, but that's not even the biggest news.
I don't know if we can. I think we just we
Yeah. Okay. Well, Modern Times is deeply, deeply effed right now.
According to Craft Business Daily,
don't run into the paywall.
Modern Times chief Jennifer Briggs said, this is an unexpected development in the process, but we are looking forward to working with NBC and finalizing the sale.
Maui Brewing Company.
Yeah.
Maui
I mean,
says,
I'd rather-
Maui says,
We don't want to
new
be
phone, who dis?
Yeah. Exactly. I mean,
So that's what Brewery X just ghosted, stopped responding to emails, and they're like, I guess they didn't buy it then. That's what I don't understand about this. How can you win an auction like that and then just be like, no, I don't think.
No.
Like if you
Right.
buy something dumb on eBay, you have to pay for that now, right?
Was it?
Yes.
I want to know if it was like,
Or you get a bad buyer review.
Yeah, your stars go down.
Yeah.
Your bottle caps decrease.
Did this sale happen on eBay?
I don't know. I like to picture
I
it
think it
as
didn't.
either a silent auction, like at a bar, where you write down your name, or like a legit old timey auction where someone's talking. really fast and funny.
not. Go
In
on.
smaller versions of this, I follow a lot of sites where they have auctions for breweries that have had unfortunate fates, where you can buy equipment and things like that for really cheap, and there's usually an option in there just to buy the whole lot. And more and more frequently, it's just people going in there and being like, I can buy all of this for this much, because I've been the leading bidder on some brew houses for $12,000 for a full 10-barrel brew house and things like that, and then I'll be like, I'm gonna win this. This is great. I gotta find somewhere to put it. And then at the end of it, there's like, you don't even get a oh, you were outbid. It's just like auction's over, and then I'm like, okay, how do I get you the money? And they're like, oh no, someone bought up everything. So I'm like, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense because everything was like hundreds of thousands of dollars in assets, and the bid to buy it all was like $48,000.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, someone was smart out there and had enough money to just be like...
I'm finding that if you have money, it's a lot easier to pull things like this off.
Right, exactly.
And whatever you don't want, you just put up for auction again.
Again, yeah.
I mean, frankly, I would rather Maui own Modern Times than
You want more tennis
Brewery
ball
X.
beer?
I mean, Maui seems to have always been a somewhat of a more classy brewery. It seems like you didn't hear them doing Prince tennis ball inspired double dry hop milk IPAs, milkshake IPAs.
Yeah, but that tennis ball smell when you get the pop,
Yeah, it's true. Maybe that's what they're going for.
that would be amazing.
That rubber phenolic smell IPA.
Yeah.
A phenol IPA. That's what you should get on, Mike. You should get a phenol IPA. It would just be a saison, but you should call it a phenolic.
Spicy IPA.
Yeah, a phenol IPA.
Yeah, I don't. That sounds like a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should do that.
Just do your same thing.
Yeah, do what I do and then just call it an IPA, just like
Yeah.
everyone else has done.
Yeah. So there's one. Oh, I'm a little nervous about bringing up this one as a space saver topic. So, what do you guys think about
We're not
this?
saving space. We're creating great content for people.
Great
to listen to.
content. So, okay, there is a brewery in Chicago. It's I think it's District Brew Yards is the tap room and kind of the collective, right? And
Should we explain what District Brew Yards is to people
yeah,
who don't
go
know?
for it, please.
It's a hub brewery where there's like a big brewery in the back, and then there's 4 or 5 maybe brands up front with a kind of serve yourself model of draft lines. But one company technically makes all the beer, and the other companies buy it from them and serve it at they distro it as well, but they serve it at their little hub there. So if you walk in, there's 5 different spots you can go and put your little card in and get your couple ounces of beer or however much you want, and then you can try a bunch of different things from them and from a bunch of other breweries, and there's food, and it's an interesting concept.
Yes.
Unique for sure.
Yes. And it, yeah, so it's all made. I'm just trying to see. Do you know the breweries that are? Well, we don't have to talk about the breweries that are part of it are not as important. But there's one. I think one of the breweries is kind of the controlling interest in it, and they own it. Right?
Yeah.
And then there's 3 others that kind of work.
There's 3 others that I know.
I think
Yeah.
3. Yeah.
So apparently there's a new brewery is moving in, and another brewery is moving out. And the brewery that's moving out, I don't think it was by choice. I think that they would have been very happy to stay there. It was their production facility and their tap room.
I wonder if they get to keep making beer there. They just don't get to have a wall anymore. Or they just out. Like, I'm not.
Good question.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's a good question. I mean, man, yeah. Like I guess we'll take your money as long as we have space. You'll go obviously to the bottom of the totem
It's like
pole.
that we can still be friends.
Right, as long as you pay me money. But then, yeah, so either they're totally out or they don't have room at the tap room anymore. And I was just thinking, what a tenuous position to put your business in that I had not thought about before with the District Brew Yards, which is all pour your own as well, right? So they've got that whole pour your own. I think people really like it. It's been very popular. It sounds like,
Yeah,
hey,
I've been there. It's been slammed.
I see a beautifully tie-dyed man just
wow.
walking in. Beautiful tie-dye.
I just was listening to the show on the radio.
Yeah.
On the radio.
And
on my
you
drive
needed
down
that.
here.
We needed you
And
badly.
I got to tell you guys, this Modern Times thing blows my mind.
Yeah.
And I kind of just missed what you said about the district brew yards
Yeah.
in the last minute.
Okay,
Because
sure.
I walked in and I saw Scotty McNeese from International Anthem and Nick.
Yeah, of course.
And there's
The cadre.
there's a 30-second delay. Hello, Sergio.
Yes.
So what happened to the one brewery? One brewery kind of got booted out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they got...
Remember how that feels, Mike? Huh? You just...
That's why we have
Yeah,
a 30-second
we
delay.
gotta-
Okay.
I think we just...
well done.
Yes, we're live.
Yeah.
So a brewery got booted out. Which one?
Let's not talk about
Okay,
that.
well, anyways.
Yeah.
So the problem, why is this a topic now? Because their model...
Maybe killing some
their
time until
model-
you got here.
Their model is to
Well,
kind of incubate breweries, right?
I don't know.
No,
Is that?
Or is that like,
I don't
or
think
is that the end result?
I don't think their intention was to be an incubator. Like that's more of the pilot project.
That's pilot project, yeah.
I think.
What is going on in this studio? It's freezing in here.
I don't
Blame
know.
Sergio.
So they're actually meant to be resident breweries
Yeah.
that stay there at
Yep.
the location. So I know there's Casa Humilde.
Yep.
There's Something Dog,
Bold Dog, I think.
Bulldog.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Around the bend.
Around the
Mm-hmm.
Bend, and there's your OG
Burnt
Burnt City, and there's one more, right?
I think Twisted Hippo is moving in there.
They're moving into the one that's
So-
vacating. I think.
I
Right?
think.
so.
Yeah.
Twisted Hippo's coming in.
Yeah.
Well, here's a hot take for you.
Yeah, I want to hear it.
This
Sizzling.
business is so successful. They're opening up another location in
Yes.
the suburbs.
Yes,
Yeah.
they are.
I'm not sure it's going to be as robust a facility, but the model itself works, which is great to know.
I also heard, talking about like rampant rumors, that some people who
Back,
are
baby.
are
All hot takes all day.
I'm just let me step this back. Let me step this back a little bit. I'm curious how the decision to put breweries in the new facility was made, and if any of the breweries from the current place are moving there as well, or instead of being at the main one, and if they had any say in that.
I mean, if we want to
Oh.
go full hot takes, I'm pretty sure they're trying to open a lot more of these.
Yeah.
Not just
Yeah.
one. So
And it's great to hear because you guys know about my NASIC plans for that. Man, we talked about the one on Pulaski Avenue years ago.
Oh, yeah,
about
yeah.
starting a facility precisely for this.
Yeah.
And it's good to see that it works because there's hope that something like this could work.
Sure.
Because a regular brewery ain't going to work. Like no one should be opening a brewery or starting a brewery at this point in the world of beer. So the fact that this kind of hybrid model of 5 breweries in one is kind of working is actually a positive story in an age where if you opened a brewery, you are an idiot.
But
How close is this business model to the food court business model, where it's like the individual restaurants don't really, they get the marketing, they get the exposure, but do they really make the money?
Well, I know
We don't know.
succeed.
And
I
that's-
know
we
in the
should
food
find
court
out.
model, one of the big food courts down in the West Loop went out of business, and one of the businesses that was doing very well there was just kind of like SOL.
Yeah.
And I think what I'm hearing in this district brew yards is kind of the opposite. Maybe they were doing well, but who knows? Maybe the least well, or maybe for whatever reason they're out. And I don't think they have any say about it. And I'm just imagining, they didn't open a brewery. Maybe they were doing what was smart, but they weren't in. Maybe it's smart for district brew yards, but is it smart for somebody to basically say, all my I'm just curious what security there is into having your tap room and your production facility with somebody else where you don't have control over when they terminate the
Yeah,
contract.
you really have to negotiate that stuff in advance, right? You have to
Yeah.
understand what the terms are. Maybe there was a clause where it's like, look, there's 5 breweries here, 50 beers on tap. If you're like the lowest selling 10 beers every month, it's time for you to get the hell out of here.
the Jack Welch style
what I mean?
of management.
Yeah.
of
Right?
Lowest chop.
That could be one of the models for it. But in general, this allows a brewery to start without having any money. You don't have to spend anything for anything.
That's not true. You have to pay them.
Well, you pay for the production of your beer.
No, you pay them a fee to be on
you
the
pay
wall.
and you also pay a fee to actually use this facility to brew your beer.
Yeah.
But it's not like you have to buy the gear. You have to rent the facility. You need to get a loan for whatever the hell you need for your equipment. So it's really an ideal situation for someone who's in the incubator phase, going to kind of grow their business, right? But of course, it kind of sucks that you can get it destroyed by violating your contract, or maybe there's bad vibes, or whatever the hell it is. But that's a lesson as well. It's better than like wasting $500 to $1 million opening a brew pub. No one comes in. You lost your house.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
This is like, oh, I'll just get a job. Right?
Right.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
I mean, I would have to know more details on like the agreement. But if I was someone looking to enter into that, after I felt like maybe they had kind of pushed someone out, I would be pretty leery, just because like,
About
says,
coming in.
yeah, like who says I'm not next? Like,
Well, you
I'm
know
a
what?
new guy. If I don't perform right away, right off the bat,
Yeah.
it would be lactose IPA, so I'd be okay. But let's say,
Exactly.
Triple lactose.
triple lactose milds.
Phenolic. But
That would be a real concern.
Yeah, but at the same time, look at what happened with Modern Times. Look at what's happening in all these breweries. Everything is cheap as heck. Everyone would swarm in to take over anyone's failing brewery anywhere in this town. The ethics or morality of like solidarity with your brewing community have been destroyed by this kind of hyper-capitalistic post-pandemic, current pandemic freakout age that we live in. People are desperate, and to get something for the pennies on the dollar is worth than just having the bad vibes like, oh, you took over my favorite brewery spot. I'm never going to go there. You never were going to go to this new brewery anyways.
Right.
And you don't even care. And the people going to District Brewery, do they even know what breweries are in there? I really doubt it.
Right.
I really doubt that anyone even knows what the hell is going on in there. And they know what beers are in there. They have a favorite beer. I know Casa Humilde's beers are great.
Yeah.
I don't know any single name of any beer of any other brewery in the place.
Yeah.
And then it's because I don't pay attention. But, like, do you know a name of a beer?
Right.
Can you name one beer? This is your job,
Yes.
Chris.
Right.
Name two beers that are coming out of that facility.
I think it's Vera is a pistachio cream ale
That's
from
the-
around the bend.
that's the only one I know.
Vera,
They make a lot of that.
which they made prior to even moving into this place.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
you know a beer?
No.
Okay. So really the model is food court, beer court, fun times, get some great barbecue in the back patio, buy a brand that sucks, hang outside, right? And just you're there, you're like, oh my god, I could try 5 breweries.
I'm not going to say that
I
they
don't
all
have to go
suck,
anywhere.
by the way. That is
No,
not, yeah.
the barbecue.
It is
Got
the
it.
barbecue, I mean.
Oh, got it.
It is kind of indicative
I see.
of like
Yeah,
what
yeah,
what
yeah.
does like the craft beer consumer in 2022 look for now. And it's not that they want to come and like if you want to hit the widest swath, it's not that they want to come and like really experience your vibe as much, that they want to like feel
That's
like
your
they're
glass,
having a bunch
Edmar.
of choices and they're
Save
trying
it
a
for
bunch
you.
of different stuff.
That's
So-
true. You want to vibe out. You want to have an experience. You
Yep.
want to enjoy some tasty stuff. But of course, there's various levels of consumers, right?
I've got a question for you, Ed.
Yeah.
Not that you have all the answers to this, but you usually have all the answers.
I have. I'll make up an answer
yeah.
right away.
So in a situation like this where there's 5 different brands selling presumably different beers that suit their brand,
This is good.
would it make
Tap
sense
your own,
for
too.
would it make sense for a single brewery to just have a couple like this? So this brewery you bought, the Emancipation.
Oh,
that-
like
that you
create-
bought.
to create 5 breweries.
Does Emancipation buy distill, right? So we're not sure if that's like there's some place that's brewing out of distill
Right.
or if it
Is it
would
Distill's brand? You mean? Is it?
Yeah, like I don't know. We don't know. But
We're
would-
going to hit
but-
on that in a
But
little
for
bit.
someone as
One of the
creative as
topics.
yourself that has a bunch of people that
well,
are
you
very
know-
attuned to the aesthetics and
Well,
what
I
people
also
want,
create
would
a
it-
million brands, and it's a stupid idea. It's a bad idea.
But would it make sense for a brewery to just have their own beer brewed by their 4 different kind of tendrils of their thing? That like this one does big beers, this one does all the lagers, this one does the IPAs. Would that make sense for like someone like
So
this?
you
mean
are
like-
you aware that one of the main topics on the outline is to discuss side brands?
No, it's
if not,
it's called
that was
the
very
se-
good.
There's
called
a
the
side.
segue,
There's
Chris.
a
You didn't-
side brand segment.
Yeah.
You didn't send me
You wanna
the
go into
outline.
it?
Well, I know that there's a
It's the
brewery
same-
in
it's the
town.
same
There's
every
or
week.
a
I
brewery.
don't have that on deck.
A brewery in Illinois that created their own sub brand of
Yeah.
a specific style of
Yeah.
beer.
Yeah.
And they, I almost swore, they wet the bed
Yeah.
on that brand, and no one cares. No
But
one
there's a
cares
couple
about
that
this
have
brand.
been doing. There's a few breweries that have been doing a bunch.
Chris
a lot
and
of
I
them have
just
been doing like
discovered one today.
seltzers.
Well, but this is a beer brand. A seltzer brand. Everyone's doing their own seltzer brands. Phase 3's
it's
done
still a
it.
side brand, right?
Brauer, no, it's its own. Seltzer's its own category for people who don't drink beer. They don't even know what the seltzer is. It's a
I
pretty
think
picture.
most of the people that are drinking Phase 3 seltzer are also drinking their beer. No,
I don't know.
they're
Wells.
not. They're not being sold in different places. They're being sold right next to their beers.
Someone text Eric right now and ask him He'll know. He'll
He's
know
in,
the answer.
he's in Pittsburgh. So
Is
he
there
can't
like a
talk.
brewery that tried to do like the automobile where it's like, is it a Ford or is it a Lincoln? You know, is it a Hyundai or is it a Lexus? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's our brewery.
You just,
We are
you
the,
just, you just
no.
we're
put
the
Mars-
Lexus of breweries.
Oh, okay.
Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah.
But what's
Intentionally?
your Honda then, or
Well,
your
my Honda
Toyota? I mean,
my Honda,
what's your Toyota
well,
Camry?
I guess Toyota's a brand of is a lower brand. It's the Pappy Van Edmar brand.
exactly. That's where it's all going.
It really is.
The pinnacle, Pappy Van Edmar.
Yeah.
That's where you're going to
Every man's beverage.
Yeah. The everyman beverage.
But can we go back to this facility and what it does
Yes.
and what it means? Because I was worried about this facility, and I've always been
District
worried.
brew-
The
brew
district
yards.
brew yards, and I was always concerned because I love the guys who are brewing at Burnt City. Right, the Salad Brothers are some of my
Yeah.
favorite people in beer. And they started off with what was the original name of that brewery?
Atlas.
Atlas.
It was attached to
and then
the
it was-
bowling alley.
Yeah, and there was
Lincoln.
they have a great partner investor in that, and then they turned it to Burnt City, and they had that beautiful, massive facility on the south side.
Yeah, huge.
And then they moved all that stuff back here, and I'm like, man, that is
The
expensive.
Jay's Chip facility, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it's that location they're at's not cheap either. So I was always worried about it, but the guy running it, the team they have are pretty smart business people. So that's kind of if we are indicating there's a sense of ruthlessness going on with replacing one brewery with another. It's probably just to make sure that the facility survives or the business survives.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Would you ever put Mars in a place like that?
I would now. Yeah,
Yeah.
if there was like a little brew court somewhere in the sticks or in Wisconsin or another. In fact, if you're listening out there, listener, especially you brewery operators, independently wealthy, foolish people who cashed in crypto before it crashed, Mars is ready to be everywhere. Wherever you want us, we will be there for you. But seriously, if there was a dude that said, I have a facility in Minneapolis, whatever, it's like we want 5 breweries in there, I'd go in there tomorrow.
Yeah.
So would you? Wouldn't you?
I don't have the beer for it, but yeah,
But if you could,
probably.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because why not? Because I get to go to Minnesota and
Yeah.
eat good food. That would be my reason to open up a brewery is to eat food in
Yeah.
some other city.
I think at the stage that our brewery is at, I would want to go check it out first, right? And
Well, of course you check it
and,
out.
like, make sure. That
But if it
it's-
was a district brew yards thing, I would probably do it.
I would also want to have my own tap room first.
Well, you want that, but this might be a good step for you. I mean, for a person who has tap rooms, it could be a good step.
Right. Once you're already getting people coming
The best
to your
step,
tap room,
the best step
incremental
for
growth
Mars
is
would
that.
have been to find financing to buy everything in California for modern times.
Yes.
Like if Mars had money, we should have bid.
You heard
know what
that
I
the
mean?
deal just fell through, right?
Oh yeah, and it's incredible. Like the amounts. How many years ago did convict and douchebags buy
Yeah.
Ballast Point?
Yeah.
How many years ago was that? 3? 4?
Not many. Yeah.
For how much? For nothing?
40.
Yeah, 40 for a
45,
$1 billion value company. This, what was Modern Times valued at? We don't know. We could estimate a couple $100 million.
Yeah.
You can get it for $15 million. It's ridiculous.
I know. But
This says
you're
more
taking
about
on
valuations
But you're
than it does
taking
about,
on their
like,
debt though too. So
Oh, what is the debt?
well, who knows?
Significant. I
We
would
don't know.
imagine,
It might be
given all
why
those numbers.
Brewery X backed out, and they're
Yeah.
like, "Oh boy."
Like,
Oh,
that much?
If that's the case,
But we don't know
then-
that. That's
then
speculation.
No, not a good
Yeah.
thing to do.
I mean, my guess is you'd have to take on their debts.
Yeah.
You'd have
that's
to.
usually what happens
Yeah.
in these types of sales. is
Yeah.
that you're actually buying.
But-
the debt is the biggest
Yeah,
thing.
but I also like this model because it does help an emerging brewery get to a place to understand their costs, understand how to grow the business at a very difficult stage. That 1,000 to 2,000 barrels is hard, and then going from 2 to 5 is even worse. It just gets worse for a brewery as they scale until they get to 10 or 15,000 barrels, apparently, according to some gurus out there.
I don't think that's
You're working.
true either.
You're working at the number one producing brewery in Illinois. That's an independent craft brewery, and it's
It's a lot
brutal,
of qualifiers, but
right? It's a brutal business. I
Yeah.
mean, it is insane how you could easily be decimated by acts of God like the coronavirus, or
Yeah.
the shipping costs, or whatever. The buyer at Costco doesn't like you anymore, right?
Right.
I mean, you could ruin your forecasting, because you're buying stuff at bulk. You're buying enormous quantities of stuff making forecasts that don't even seem realistic.
Yeah.
It's so difficult to do what you're doing at your level. And as the engineer of the person running the whole thing, you probably see all this stuff. You're like, why do we have 10 pallets of lids here?
Yeah,
When are we gonna
50
rid of this?
super sacks
You know what I
of Oktoberfest malt.
So it's like these things, you just see that, and you're like, wow.
Don't bucket that one.
For small guys, it's even more insane, man. It's just like, it's brutal. I mean, I made that little quip about do not open a brewery, and I halfway mean it.
All right.
There's no need to do that.
I mean, you only want to do it if it's actually what you want to do for your
job. You should only do it if you're the brewer owner.
Right.
Not a moron like me who doesn't know how to do anything.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
If I was the brewer owner guy,
Well,
maybe I would enjoy it more.
also-
Ed, we have to take a moment because I have to mention. Thank you for reminding me, Serge, that you're listening to WLPN LP Chicago 105.5 FM Lumpin Radio, Bridgeport, Chicago, and we're talking beer and side brands and all sorts of stuff with Edmar and Nick Pankey and
the non-brewer
Mike
owner who
Shalal.
owns the radio station is getting up to turn down the air conditioning.
Yes.
in true dad fashion.
Yes.
It's
And
so cold in here.
what are we? What
It was pretty cold. And look at that. Now the sound quality is better.
Yeah, that's nice. So, what do you guys want to talk? Do you want to talk about side brands, or do you want to talk about Stone, one of the last big holdouts?
Let's do Stone.
Going.
I feel like
Stone.
this
Let's
is
talk
like
Stone. We can come
this
back
is
to
a
side
throw-
brands.
This is a throwback episode.
Yeah.
So we should talk about the throwback
Right now, can you imagine seeing?
a reggaeton festival.
Remember the Juan Kim, Chef Juan Kim,
Heard of
threw a competition, and Stone was one of the sponsors.
Yes,
and
that's
if
right.
you won, whoever won
You got to make a beer with
the
Stone.
homebrew competition, you made a beer of Stone, and there
Aleman.
was a coffee,
Aleman.
and
Aleman
Aleman won.
Coffee
Yeah.
IPA.
Coffee IPA, and in fact, I believe they ran on that notoriety of winning the thing.
And I think they turned that into
a brewery.
But those are guys who have never left their day job. I think, if I know correctly,
I
they're
don't
like
know.
smart dudes who still had this brand going for
Aleman.
since like what, like that was probably.
And what's his name was standing
2015.
up there?
Greg.
Yeah,
Cook
Greg. Greg Cook.
Cook.
Greg Cook was out there evangelizing, being the great leader and proselytizer for beer, of independent beer, yellow fizzy beer. Mr. If you were to say craft beer, his picture would come up with a picture of the guys from Brewdog, right?
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
They're in the same league as the Brewdog guys in
They're
terms of the
doing great.
notoriety, right?
Yeah.
So to see what happened is scary. Once again, Giganto Brewery making forecasts, freaking out about what they have to do to keep their business running or expanding, because when you constantly take investment money, those investors want their money back or they want it to grow, right? And if you don't grow phenomenally, you're in deep doo-doo. And I believe the reason they sold is because their debt was over $400 or $500 million.
465.
How do you operate?
Stones was?
How was anyone operating at $465 million in debt as a brewery in this world?
Who keeps giving you debt at that point, right? Like, who keeps is like,
Who's
sure.
giving the money?
It's got to be someone that already gave you debt, right? Where there's like,
Right.
I guess, like,
Like the dude, the Japanese.
In for a penny, in for
what
a
was
pound.
that Japanese?
Right.
That Japanese bank that kept giving money to WeWork.
Oh, I know the one
SoftBank.
you're talking about.
SoftBank?
Yeah.
So maybe they have their own SoftBank
Yeah.
customer, right?
sure.
I don't know. It just
Well,
baffles
it is one of
me.
those interesting things. Like, that has to come down to some sort of personal relationship at some point, right? That's not a smart move for
Banking?
that bank. So, like, it has to be someone that liked Greg or someone they were talking to. Were like, no, we just need this to get 420. What was it?
465.
65.
But is all that debt from
Is
their
it?
failed Berlin and was
mean,
it Tokyo?
it's
Didn't
fine.
they try to
Can't be
get
that much.
They did try to have it, but it wasn't like a brewery in Tokyo. It was a bar, I think.
Oh, okay.
But someone could correct me. But this is one thing we were talking about the drive down here, and I had to Google a video to find out. But when they opened in Berlin, the way that they christened their brewery was they stacked up a bunch of traditional German beer and literally dropped a big stone on it.
So
to a country that has no affinity for its current brand.
yeah,
So-
sounds like
Or
a-
it's
That's some
1,000-year
real
history.
Bond
Right.
villain stuff. Like,
Yeah,
Really?
and it was really sad actually. Like it was
Yeah.
on a forklift, and they tilted it down. And it was like a small pallet of beer,
It kinda
and it just
plopped.
kind of like knocked one over, and then
Yeah.
like kind of fell on top of the other ones.
You know
And
what?
So
pretty
they-
symbolic
they-
of how it actually
Yeah, I
happened
was gonna
there.
say,
Yeah.
They really failed at crushing that German
But
beer.
it sounds like typical dumb American going to Europe and partying and not having any clue about the culture that they're partying
But
in.
that was kind of their vibe, though, wasn't it? Dumb, loud American, but I like craft beer. Wasn't
Maybe,
that kind of like
maybe.
the fizzy yellow beer is stupid? I'm gonna scream and I'm gonna like arrogant bastard. Wasn't their whole thing like that? They are that, but don't drink the American version, like the now American version. We're the next version of that.
Yeah. I don't know
Yeah.
how to explain their brand,
Yeah,
really.
I mean, who knows? With all that debt, who knows what it is? It could be tied up into a whole bunch of assets,
Yeah.
as well. But
Yeah.
But so the thing is, it's not about Greg selling out and making money off of this deal. It's about like rescuing the entire apparatus of this giant global corp that they have.
I can't
Well,
imagine he made too much money. I'm sure he
first-
made enough money for a human being to do decently, but
yeah, I mean, first things first. Let's talk about how hours before it was announced, you and I were on the air talking about Stone, and I believe we said that they're going to sell soon. It's either
No,
that or
no,
we said
I
no,
think-
they're not selling.
no, I don't think we said either one.
No,
I think
I
more
know.
the vibe was just like, yeah, I think they will sell. I think they have sold. No, it was more like they didn't sell out during that big wave of everyone selling out. And like looking back on it, I can't say it was a good decision for them.
Yeah.
Because they significantly like receded from this market. I don't know how they're doing in other markets. I don't go to other markets, but I can't imagine you pull out of the third biggest population in
But
the
we
country.
don't know
and
if
you're
that's
doing
because
great.
of the distributors, did a poor job, or they just because
Yeah,
distributors
we don't know.
don't have enough information.
But if you're a brewery of that size, I think you do everything you possibly
Yeah.
can to have a decent presence in the third biggest metropolitan area in the country.
I will say I've got so Greg had a big farewell blog post that I'll get into, but I do want to say it's interesting. I would say of that craft beer era, the explosive growth era, three of the biggest voices for craft as a thing, for craft being this thing that was almost bigger than beer. I would say Greg Cook would definitely have been one of them. Mm-hmm. Sam Calgione would be another one. And maybe Tony McGee would be a third.
yeah,
All three of them
biggest
have
faces for
sold
sure.
out.
Maybe the guy from Boston Beer Company would have to be on that.
Yeah, maybe earlier. Jim
different
Cook.
vibe, but he was the first. Like, I'm the face of this brewery, and
And also, he was more, we're of a higher quality. We care about what we're making and stuff like that. And I think the other guys took it and ran with it. And specifically, they kind of amped it up a little bit. So I'll say those four. If you're going to have a Mount Rushmore of
the
beer
faces,
evangelists, I would say those would probably could easily be the four. I don't know. I mean, I don't feel like going into it in too much greater detail. But the point is,
of craft
three
beer
of those
marketing.
four have sold to big interests.
One
two
sold
of
to
them,
one or the other.
yeah, two of them to multinational interests, and one to Boston Beer, which is a
Tiny little.
I mean,
Yeah.
publicly
I
traded
look
company.
back at how I was involved in beer and Maria's, et cetera, and just thinking about how I'm an anomaly in so many ways. I never really thought of it as a business first, more of like a passion, right? And then it became a business. But I'm pretty sure that 99% of all the other human beings out there that started a brewery actually started their brewery thinking they could do what Lagunitas and Stone did.
I don't
You think?
know. I think it's
I don't know.
I would say it's
I don't know.
Until those things,
No?
until like 2012, there's no way anyone who started the brewery thought they would do what they did.
But you don't think, because it seems to be like they're entrepreneurs or people who do things who actually see a wave, a trend, and they understand it better than maybe most of us do. We got into it thinking it's obviously viable because it's growing. It's obviously something you could do without any data, any support. But there are people who have brains and have access to data
And use them.
and they use them, and they have access to coin, they have access to money, they have access to build fast.
Golden Road, right?
Golden Road, or you look at
Or Project X is a good example of that. They're only like 3 or 4 years
even,
old.
Even like, is it Collective Arts out of Toronto?
Yep.
Like, they're smart people.
Yeah, but those are all pretty relatively in the scope of this
Well,
from
they're
Sierra
young.
Nevada to now. They're relatively young.
That's what I'm
there,
saying.
There was a Wall Street Journal article in like 2014 saying there's a 0% failure rate of breweries, and so that
From when?
like 2013 or 14.
Okay, yeah.
And so
I believe
like
that.
I think that's when it went from being like it was our fun little thing we were playing around with, and like we don't need to really know how businesses run because like people are showing up because they like
Sure.
great beer, to like people showing up being like, we can make money here. And then that's
Right,
when a lot of this,
right.
like,
Yeah.
Right after that.
a lot
That's
of
right
a lot
at
of the breweries opening to be like, you see
Right.
what they're doing? They're worth $1 billion. We can be worth $500 million if we do half
Well,
of
that's
what
what
they
I'm
do.
saying. I think people tried to do that.
Yes, I think that certainly happened.
Does anyone have the...
I don't think 99% of the breweries that opened tried to do that though.
All right. Maybe I'm... 99% is...
Sorry for using
99%.
my math brain over here.
But speaking of math, how many breweries have failed during the pandemic? Does anyone know?
No.
I mean, I remember there were reports early on in the pandemic that a majority...
Yeah, that never happened.
It never happened. Everyone survived due to PPP or their fan
Yeah.
base. Or people.
But it's going to start happening now. Now you're starting to see them fall off.
But you're right. Now, this year is the year when you'll
Yeah.
see people fall off, for sure.
It's happening. It's already happening. So,
Well, when
Greg...
you see it happening to Stone. You see it happening to Modern Times. These supposed, bulletproof brands, right?
But is that happening to brands that aren't over extending themselves like that? That's a common theme with Stone and Modern Times. They sold because they failed.
You just don't hear about
Dogfish
those breweries.
didn't sell because they failed. They just sold because they had an offer they couldn't
And to be
refuse.
fair, they didn't go out of business. None of them have gone out of business except for Modern Times. But even then, they haven't, I guess,
Yeah.
technically yet.
Wow.
But still, I mean, it's not just like we are closing.
They're in receivership.
I
so
think
it's
I have
pretty-
someone
Right.
listening on the air live right now because he just sent me a text saying, you should open this place and open up a brewery in Milwaukee at the Riverland site.
Nice.
What is that? I don't even know what is the Riverland site? Does anyone know?
No.
All right, I want to
know
talk
about
about
it?
what Greg wrote. Greg Cook. He wrote a big blog post. I printed it out. You want to hear what he had to say? Because he was
Totally.
such an evangelist,
Totally.
such a hard ass
Put
about
this
all
on,
this stuff.
Put it on the record.
Okay. So it's long. I mean,
Don't
look
read
at
the whole thing.
No, I
Chris.
won't. But look how long it is. It's 8 pages of 8.5 by 11. I don't know, like 12-point font. So it's a long
I
statement.
can't believe he used his 2 thumbs to write
I
that in
know.
the bathroom.
It's true. He talks a little bit about how he used to do most of his communicating that way in this, but I won't talk about that. So he starts it out with, very funny. The first 2 things he puts in is a quote from Metallica and a quote from Heraclitus.
Oh, God.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Whoa.
So those 2 things.
True
So
that.
then,
He loves himself.
yes, and then he goes, "It's
How
time."
to become a caricature of yourself.
It's
101.
time. I'll be leaving Stone Brewing soon, the company I co-founded and led for the better part of my life. And then he talks a little bit about the history of it, and then I'm skipping over large amounts, and I'll stop and we'll talk, and we can get back to it then. He says, the world has changed dramatically in the last few years. The beer industry changed with it, and so have I. Sure, I'd said it dozens of times, quite possibly well over 100. I 1,000% meant it every single time. It's what I truly believed. I said it while pounding my fist, both physically and metaphorically, on the table. I'd said it over the telephone or on video with narrative emphasis. He says while pounding his fist on the table, the words, "I will never sell out." Until now. But why? Yeah, it's...
This was inevitable at a certain point, though, right? So I didn't mean. Are you still read?
Yeah, that's one stopping point that we can talk about. I mean, there's other stuff too. He talks about his ego. He talks about because he's definitely had an ego, and he says my main ego driver has been wanting to do the right thing. I want to share with people visions of better alternatives, things that were better than the norm, the belief that others might be interested in craft beer too. Sure, I got preachy at times, but I wanted to stand up for craft beer, which was the perennial underdog of the beer industry, until it wasn't. When was that moment? It's a harder call then whatever. But
Then what is
he
whatever?
has
It's
he says in
important,
brackets,
whatever.
pick your metaphor is what he put.
Oh, okay.
But it seems to be sometime around 2016, the year that we have pinned,
We
Mike.
did an episode. The last episode we did was about why is 2016 the time that everyone stopped caring about craft
Yeah,
beer.
yeah. So Greg Cook said it as well. So we can stop.
So he says
There.
He
For
says
now.
his ego is driven by wanting to help people. No, do the right thing. That is my biggest flaw is that I work too hard and I care too much.
Right.
Like,
That's some circular logic right there. My ego is driven by trying to do the right thing. Is this self-fulfilling Ouroboros of self-aggrandizing?
Right.
I don't blame him for selling. No matter what even if he was craft beer's champion, but it doesn't seem like he's owning it. He is saying, "I did everything."
What it sounds like he's saying
like,
is, "I've failed." To me, is what it sounds like he's saying.
That's what he's not saying.
Right. But it's what he's dancing around, right?
Yeah.
He's like, everything I tried to do was to say you could have these alternatives, but I didn't want to sell out, and blah blah blah. But then I did,
Right.
And so it's like,
and that's the most excruciating thing about this whole statement for me. Well, one of the two things, but this is the first, and that he goes, when was that? Until it wasn't. It was always the underdog until it wasn't. When was it? It's harder to pick than whenever, but it was around 2016. And he said, or the day before yesterday, the day you select will likely be proportional to how long you've been in craft beer. And then he goes, for me, it was just a handful of years after Stone started, and he starts just going back into history. He doesn't dive into that. He skips it. I wrote, it seems to jump. It was almost like it got edited out, and then because it's just, he
where he talked about other sales.
It used to
and
be,
they were probably like, you shouldn't talk about other people who sold for $1 billion when we're selling for $140,000.
or why how beer changed, how the industry changed, how things got harder,
it would be nice to hear that.
Yeah.
It would be nice to hear that.
He was just getting into it. I was like, oh, this is interesting.
This is cool.
For me, it happened around 2016. And then, he just gets and starts talking about 1996. And then back then, all you needed was a great brewer. And we got some great partners. Like, he does the whole, origin story instead.
Right, because then that goes from being like, here's a story Greg's going to tell you about why he has to sell out, to being like, here's a PR piece telling you the story of Stone.
Or just not
that's
being
a good
real.
point.
He started being real for just a moment and then stopped. And I was like, oh, what a cop-out. And then I felt personally. And then reading through it, we'll go through it. But spoiler alert, he never gets into that.
It's too bad.
It is really too bad. It is too bad.
Because we need people like that who could explain what's happened.
Came out the other
cautionary
side.
tale, right?
What
hey
they've
guys,
seen.
this is
What do they
what
see?
I did wrong, or
Yeah.
this is where I failed.
Yeah. Well, that's because you're going to be a consultant after this.
Sure.
Right.
What's also that was like we were talking about on that same show, that where are Tony McGee's blogs from that, and I found them on the Wayback Machine. We should read those
You did
at some
find
point.
them?
Yeah, we
Oh,
should
that's
find
great.
them. We should read some of those blog posts. That would be great.
Yeah. Well, not but just to be like that. That's where craft beer was in 2016. Is someone who had created this brand that started very much not in the way of we can be a $1 billion company, and then realizing that we're a $1 billion company that has to sell, and then when you read them post. I don't want to say post-mortem, but post the sale, it's like, oh, this is, even if it wasn't intended this way in a PR way, because they did not seem very PR-y then, it was it seemed like he was actually writing them. They kind of more seem like justification to himself of this is what happens. This is what happens when good things happen to you. And so we'll have to go back and read those.
And when bad things happen, you have to unfortunately make decisions you wouldn't have when things were going well.
Right. And when really bad things happen, no one writes an article about you, really. Right? You just, no one hates you. No one's like, you sold out, you did this or that. It's like, oh, it's so sad that thing happened to that guy.
Some people feel that way, though. I'm sure they feel that way about Greg right now.
Mm-hmm. Right, but this isn't the worst thing that could happen. This isn't a super bad thing that happened to them. They still are selling for $100 million, $100 million, but when you just shut a brewery down, most people don't care.
Yeah, shutting it down is the worst case.
Yeah.
In this case, it's just, if we didn't know Greg was there, it wouldn't matter to us personally here in Illinois. Whether Greg owns it or not, if Stone Beer's here or not, no one cares.
Right.
You know what I mean? But at the same time, it's the same thing though. It's the same story to me of everything gets recuperated into capital, right? They take it all. The monopoly, the industries that dominate will keep dominating and just pick up these scraps, find the weaknesses, pick up a stone, whatever. I don't even know how those cats from Convict and Cholos.
Kings and Convicts and
No,
Cholos.
Convicts and Cholos is a much better
I don't know
name.
how they found the financing, but they knew people who had money. It's the people who have coin that usually dominate within these industries, and that's
right.
It is for every industry.
There are other options, but they aren't great, right?
No,
like Alan Sprint shutting down Hair of the Dog just to shut it down because his kid didn't want to take over it is the most noble thing you can do, but not a financially great thing for it to do.
No.
But I respect what he did, right? And it's like a similar, how many ends can there be to these things?
He couldn't find employees who could afford it or buy it, or he couldn't find anyone on the team that
or didn't
wanted
want to.
Right.
Yeah, didn't want to pass it on to anyone else.
Yeah.
Right, but it's a very rare case where it's someone who's just like, I did what I wanted to do with it. My kid doesn't want it.
Yeah.
And it just can end.
Yeah.
And I don't need. And he probably saved money while it was being a very successful brewery. But that's a beautiful brewery of I did exactly what I wanted. It's more of an artist doing something than it is this turned into a business because he made all the beer. He only made as much
Probably
beer
a
as
pretty
he
small
wanted to make.
brewery, too.
It's a tiny brewery. But and then he also was well, I can just shut it down because he probably doesn't have debt or investors he has to pay back in a way that.
And that's something
That's true. That's true.
But he did that, and you know what? Thousands of people are doing that every day in America.
Sure.
Small
Just
business
not
people
brewers.
just shut.
Yeah,
not,
but
could be in any
Dinkel
industry.
breweries,
But
just
most of them also
bakery.
didn't have the opportunities he probably had laid at his feet in the late 90s, again, probably in the 2010s. There were probably opportunities for him to do things that would have made him a lot more money in the short term and had a different result for his brand.
Well, I know everyone
and
here.
his legacy,
I know
if you wanna
everyone
put it that
here
way.
wish they were friends with Zaitoshi Ham Sandwich.
Yeah.
and got in on
Nakamura.
Bitcoin.
Satoshi Nakamura.
In 2000, whatever. I know that we all feel that
I think
way.
Serge did.
Yeah, Serge knows him.
Whatever
Serge
that
may
guy,
be
whatever
him.
that fictional
Yeah, Serge is
guy's
Satoshi
name is.
Nakamura or whatever. Is that right? Satoshi.
Can you prove he isn't?
I can't prove he
so
isn't.
you're-
I can't either.
So you're disappointed in Greg's response. I wish Greg said some more.
So let me see what else
What do
he
you think?
says.
Are you pissed at Greg, Mike?
I'm not mad at him.
Nick?
I think it's already died.
I don't care. Yeah,
we're,
I don't
we're
care
mourning.
about
We're
stuff.
mourning a corpse.
Doesn't
Yeah.
It's
Right. And so he gets back to it. He talks about the, we started out with 4 people. Now there's 1,000 people. I leave the brewery in very capable hands. But wait, again, why go? And he says 2 primary reasons. One, I have to be self-aware enough to know that just because I co-founded and led the company for many years, I may not be the best person to helm Stone in the future.
when we were driving down here, I was like, you probably weren't the best person to helm Stone for the last 15 years. But
he says I'd plan to operate.
Ouch.
I'm not saying I'd do a better job, but it's a very rare person that can do the job that he
Yeah.
needed to do in that time.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
true. Founders and CEOs are usually not the best at
Almost
overlapping.
diametrically opposed.
I mean, you have the Jeff Bezoses of the world, and those types of people. But anyway, Greg writes, "I'd plan to operate the puppet strings all the way to my last days, but can easily see how disrespectful that would be
Not a
to
great
all
term,
the
for your
people."
employees to hear. I wanted to
Right.
operate the puppet strings.
I would have, but yeah, or I'd plan to. He says, but that would.
Maybe that's part of the reason why this happened.
Well, but he
Well, he
does.
says it's not
he
a
does
good
say,
idea.
but that would be
It's just-
disrespectful. He would say to all the people who've shared our vision along the way.
Using that phraseology is disrespectful.
especially the people who are here now, showing up and working hard every day. He says, "I've run the calculus, and this is the most pragmatic decision to ensure this beautiful thing I care so much about, has a future." And then he says, "And 2, I've got one life, so I gotta go with my gut, and when your gut nags, you follow it." And then here's the part. Fine, those are the reasons.
Yeah.
I'm not the right person, and I've got one life, and I want to move on to the next thing. Okay, those are legit, probably pretty, only skin deep, but whatever. And then he goes, I'm going to start my semi-recluse phase. And he makes a joke and says I might get a volleyball and start talking to it, and says, if I could go back and give myself some young advice, it'd be lighten up. I will always be a supporter of independent craft beer. However, I've softened my rigidity around this in recent years. Oh, I'm surprised. I mean, you just sold a Sapporo. And then he does list, I'd happily buy a beer from Avery, New Belgium, Dogfish Head, Bell's, and Anchor. And he talks about it for a while in Anchor a couple ways that it was so influential to him. And he says, in closing, I wanted to share something I heard, and that's basically he no longer needs to hear himself talk. And he says, this blog may be the last time you hear from me.
Amen.
So that is the thing that
well, there's more there, right?
Pissed me off.
Read the whole, the last time you hear from me.
This blog may be the last time you hear from me. I've enjoyed being passionate and vocal advocate, but I'm ready for smaller, more intimate conversations. I didn't highlight that part, but he basically says, I'm going to be a recluse, and this will likely be, the last time that you hear from me. To me, that is the second part that ticked me off. One, he didn't get into the realities of it. He just kind of skipped over it. And two, he left no room for a follow-up. And for him particularly, who was such a hard ass all the time, saying how hardcore you are, to just be like, things changed, I sold out, I said I wouldn't, but now I did, and I'm never going to talk to anyone again, bye.
Yeah, but
no one can say anything. He just says, I'm not going to answer any questions about what
None of his
I've
hard
done.
assery was a conversation either, though. It's not like he was in conversation with craft beer consumers. Just like, here's what I'm doing, and if you think it's different, screw you. So this is kind of...
I'm not sure that's fair, right? Think about it. I brought up the story of him coming here in the middle of nowhere, hanging out with some home brewers, and making a beer for them if they want a competition for home brewing.
Yeah.
That's not the kind of person you just described to me. The reality is, as a serial successful failure, right? Failing a lot in all kinds of endeavors, you learn from your mistakes, right? But I think because he was doing this for so long, it's so hard to really acknowledge the fact that you screwed everything up. I think it's really tough for him to accept by himself that it was his fault. Someone like me would totally be able to accept that blame. I'd be like, I messed it. I'm destroying all my businesses all the time. But I think for him, who is pretty arrogant bastard, it's hard for him to know that I don't think he wants to tell us. He doesn't want to reveal the mistakes he knew he made, right? Because it's also
Well, he also probably
post-game
can't
analysis.
legally do that.
Possibly can't either.
So I think there's probably some good reasons he
That's
didn't
what I'm saying.
do that.
Like, he played a character. That character was Mr. Arrogant Bastard.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was his vibe, his brand, his shtick.
And he talks about that
But
a little bit
but
here,
I think
too.
he actually gave a crap about craft beer drinkers and about the community in general.
I think he did.
I think
totally.
he really did. I think that's his real legacy.
I think he did. I also think that... So here's the note I wrote. I said to take such a hard stand, even if it's your public stand, to take such a hard stand, then do the opposite. I said perhaps with good reason, and then barely address that you did it and say you're never going to talk about it again. It's
lame.
like
That's lame.
I said he's talking about selling out. I was like, that's the worst form of selling out. To be like, yeah, I know I said it, but now I take it back. There's good reasons, but you'll never know because I'm never going to say anything again. Bye. And that was like so detrimental to his legacy.
True, but
in my
I guess I don't know enough about the history. Let's say he was a hard ass about it 15 years ago. That is being a staunch supporter of something, a lion cub that turns into a lion. And maybe he hung on to that lion way too long before it got out of control.
Yeah,
but
he was there at the ascent.
Yeah.
And sticking it to the man. Feeling a surge of tearing down the pig system of macro beer.
He played a huge role in the how go on.
In the life cycle of Stone, he sold at a time that they're at their lowest.
Mm-hmm.
Would it have been better for him to sell at the top?
Yeah, there
At
were
some
offers.
point,
There were probably offers.
yeah, he's not like, yes, he's making money. Him and his grandchildren, they're going to be absurdly wealthy,
Fine,
but
No,
he just got beat. He got beat.
He lost.
Yeah.
He got beat.
Yeah.
He lost. That's what I wanted him to say, but he never could because he sold to Sapporo. He could never be like.
Well,
What
Sapporo's
I've
cool.
been saying on this
But
show
Sapporo's
is
cool.
Big Beer won. They won.
Oh yeah,
They won.
They won. Yeah, of course.
They won.
We know.
Yeah, but
That doesn't
wait,
mean that there
Big
is no
Beer
craft
won?
beer.
Big Beer won by buying Stone.
No.
In
I said this
general,
years
in
ago.
general.
They've won. They've bought all.
Yeah.
They won by buying. So they bought all the big guys. They've bought Goose and Lagunitas, and I mean they've bought them all now. All of them have sold.
So Big Beer has won from a financial.
Recuperating, buying, absorbing.
Preventing the growth of the independent by just buying them.
Yeah.
So
But
like
maybe- and
yeah.
Which is
I
normal.
may not phrase this correctly, but maybe
Yeah.
the independent craft breweries individually don't need to grow, and that's why you're seeing this hyper focus on local.
Yeah.
And big breweries cannot.
Well, yeah. No, Nick. It's chains exist obviously in every category.
Yeah.
They destroy small businesses and small retailers. Blah blah blah. But you're right. There's room to open a small brewery, a brew pub, a small production
Totally.
brewery. Everyone could do that forever for the end of time. Like there's room for 10,000 more small breweries.
And that is new, and that is a legacy of craft beer,
yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
100%.
You're opening
I
up-
completely agree.
But it's more similar to opening a restaurant now than it is
Yeah.
to opening
Yes.
some sort of like regional brewery or
but
something
it-
like
Okay.
a really small chain.
But for many people, it always was about just opening a restaurant.
Yeah.
They didn't know it at the time.
I thought you said 99% of people were opening breweries to sell for $1
They could
billion.
sell
I-
it.
but I mean, like,
He's-
That
in
was
retrospect,
January through March of
meant-
2017.
Hey, let me put a post thought on that. I was thinking of production breweries.
Yeah,
Primarily.
no, totally.
Yeah. But the thing about Greg, you're right, is that's really sad that he doesn't want to open a dialogue and explain what really happened, and it's maybe none of our business. But the
Yeah.
fact that the Big Beer won is correct, and they've won whatever, big agribusiness, big corporate media. I mean, every category they've won. They've dominated, and they've been eviscerating us and just milking us and making tons of money off of the dominance of whatever category of the economy it is, right?
And I would imagine, I believe, Greg, that he 1,000% believed it when he said, I will never sell out. I bet you his goal and his dream was to be the holdout, to
Right.
be the one that never
Or
has
to be the Sierra Nevada,
So-
or be the
Right.
be the, he. I think he believed they could do it, and
Yeah.
there was a time where they
Maybe
were as
could.
well positioned to do it as anyone.
Right.
But that also means you were $450 million.
But
in
now,
debt.
but why didn't a group of other independent breweries come together?
They
to try to get
tried
strong?
to do that. Remember that Stone tried
Yeah.
to do that to buy other smaller
Yeah,
breweries.
why didn't that plan work?
Well, there's not enough capital there, right?
But
you were
is-
like
but
it's just,
who's-
when you get into these like 450 billions,
Yeah.
these
Millions,
numbers,
yeah.
it's just
There's no money.
yeah.
There-
Like,
you can't get that money.
you can't bootstrap yourself to $1 billion,
No.
really.
So the question remains, like, is that even a goal? Isn't that something you should even want?
Right.
You should only want that if you're into the crypto Web3 con game, which is like craft beer 2010.
But think about it. You're in California. You're seeing
Yeah.
Ballast Point. You
don't realize the
seeing
Empire's in decline yet.
Lagunitas.
Yeah.
Sierra Nevada is still there.
Yeah.
You're seeing
I mean,
all
they were
that stuff.
arguably ahead of a lot of those breweries.
Oh
since
my
that moment,
gosh,
too, right?
they
Like,
were
In
ahead
Chicago?
of all
For
of
sure.
them, except for they were ahead of all of them at one point, except
Yeah.
for Sierra Nevada.
Right.
And then they were ahead of all of them except for probably Sierra Nevada, which was in a different category, and Lagunitas.
Well, also,
and Lagunitas was a
let's-
rocket ship.
Let's not forget, opened 25 years earlier.
Right.
It's not like,
But you don't-
So like there was a different wave.
If we had questions for Greg, though, or any of these guys who sold their breweries to the larger corpos or whatever, got bought out by a crappy deal. I want to know what the role of all the distributor families was in this
Yeah.
growth and these plans. Like, to me, the secret web, the thing that no one ever talks about is like, How did they make those deals to roll out in all these states to boost up their production and sales, to position themselves to be sold, right? Was there help? Did they get help? Like, let's go.
When you say help, like
conspiracy
what do you mean?
theory
Go,
help.
go there. Like when you say help, what do you mean it in the most conspiratorial way?
What families decided in which states that they would pick up Stone and make sure that they would be the dominant brand or SKU they would carry for X amount of years? Or because these families, these multi-generational distributors all across the country, you have their own monopolies, right? Been working with the Macro Beer Corps forever. Were there discussions with Macro Beer Corps about the role of craft to be purchased and
I know
distributed?
that Stone started their own distributor in Southern Cal.
in Southern Cal.
They were the Windy City.
Which is a big shoot yourself in the foot kind of move.
It was
Why?
very lucrative for them.
Why?
Because if your intention is to sell out from the beginning,
But
right?
there wasn't an intention though.
Right, exactly.
They never believed they would.
Right, but it's a big shoot yourself in the foot move to compete with the distributors of the places that are going to buy you eventually, rather than to go into their cluster,
Yeah,
right?
but
So if you get bought out by
No, Mike. They
What
never
do you mean,
started
no?
They never started self distribution, knowing that eventually they would sell out.
well,
I don't
right.
think so.
That wasn't what I was saying. I was saying the opposite. That means that's a reason that they probably weren't intending to sell out. If you're intending to sell out, you start being like, well, who might buy us, right? Sure. Is Anheuser-Busch going to buy us? Well, we should probably align ourselves with Anheuser-Busch clusters.
But not necessarily, because you look at Windy City, right? You look at Two Brothers. Starting that distributorship gave them a lot of cash flow.
And they took on Stone, by the way. That's who Stone went to.
Certainly. But then you look at Lagunitas, and then what happens there?
I guess I'm confused about why
the
the self-distribution was a bad move. That's all.
Oh, hold on. Wait, what were you?
For your valuation when you go to sell to a larger corporation? Because you're not aligned with the cluster of distributors that corporation already works with. So then they have to buy your distribution rights from either like you or from something else. Then it makes your acquisition more expensive for them.
I guess I'm just more interested in, like, I wish Greg has a diary explaining the relationships he made with a certain families and distributors across the country.
If I sold out by Greg Cook.
You know what I mean? Like, what?
This is how I would have done it.
How did that work? Because, you have, like, our man Don.
Plan B, the sellout plan.
Don is in that game. Don knows that world. Don knows those families. Don understands how that works. Don helped grow Revolution Brewery, for example.
For me, please.
Understanding those relationships. So I'm just curious about that. Like, what is the role of the distributors across the country in this kind of like boosting of these breweries and then the sale of those breweries to the dominant Macro Beer Corps? It'd be fun to know.
I think so. Why don't we take?
Oh, you think they're acting like not with the larger? They're trying to create their own kings of craft beer, like the families.
I don't know.
Maybe. I mean,
another show should just be about.
I would imagine that rides
the
from
state
top
of distributors
down, right?
would be a great topic.
My guess is they would want to
They'll
align.
never come on.
My guess is those guys are pretty fractured. They're being bought and consolidated in their own right, big time.
In California,
and kind of everywhere. Yeah. And I think that they just want to ride the coattails of the big guys of Bud and Miller.
Right.
And
there was a moment where they're like, no, we're going to take on all these craft brands.
And that ended very quick.
Yeah.
Because you had morons like me running those distribution networks, believing in craft beer.
You ran a distribution network?
No, morons like him.
Like me.
Oh, like you.
Like believers that crap.
No, we're like, wait, why?
We're the David against the Goliath of Corpos.
I think it's people that own these generational things that realize we lost handles to some distributing idiot. How do we get those back? Oh, we offer some sort of other.
Yeah.
And then the Budweisers of the world quickly realized that we'll just offer those instead, and then you don't have to go somewhere
You'll never
else.
have to go anywhere
and
else.
that was the beginning of the end.
Because let's think back to like 2015 before we all got jaded about craft beer. It was feasible that you could start a brewery, make a couple thousand barrels of beer, and maybe if you had a friend that worked in an airport bar, you'd sell them something. Right? That might have been naive.
I wish I had that friend.
But like the idea was like, oh, like these aren't fully taken up because they don't have a craft beer option. we could be that option. We could be that mistake.
Right, 'cause there weren't any. Right,
And
right.
so then when you buy Goose Island, you put IPA anywhere and everywhere. And then when you do that with a bunch of times with what are the consumers like? Oh, they want like something regional to that area. Sure, they don't actually. If you're at an airport bar,
Regional bra.
if you're at an airport bar, you're not going to be like, well, this isn't actually an independently owned regional thing, really.
Yep.
So you just like then you take that,
But no
and,
one
and that
knows.
type of place, Buffalo Wild Wings, then goes that way, and then all like the
They just want to control
going
the
down
set.
from-
They want to control the set.
Right.
Is what they
and
want
they have
to do.
they've effectively done that for a large
Yes.
enough set of consumers where it
Oh
doesn't
my
You know
God.
what? You know what would have been the most magical play, in my opinion,
go for it.
for craft beer?
If Budweiser had bought Mars and given you $1 billion in 2012.
Yeah, a group of breweries got together with some communists, .com people, and .com money investors, and created this kind of independent chain of breweries across the nation using .com money to fund the development of the retail space, the production space.
So then
And there was
Amazon buys you instead
Crypto
of
NFC blockchain money.
Crypto money was involved. Exactly, like seriously.
Blockchain,
Dust
Like
coin
that,
selling and selling.
that would have been a good way, and that so it leads into one of your topics though of NFTs and Goose,
Okay.
which to me
Yeah.
is really going to be fun to talk about.
Okay. Well, why don't we take a break?
Yeah.
And we'll come back in a few, and we'll keep talking about something. I don't know, but we'll be here. Listen to some tunes. We're gonna take an old-fashioned break and be back with more of the Beer Temple Inside Show. Oh my. Oh my.
That one hurts so good,
That's
Serge.
something that we've missed. Like a true double fade. Fading up, fading out.
Had the point. He had,
and it was pointing
I thought
while
Was that a
fading
four-
I thought
multiple.
you were talking about
4D fade,
Yeah.
I thought
time and space.
Yeah. He was I mean he's playing 4D chess.
I
With
just,
fades though.
I just thought you
They
meant
can only move in one direction.
it meant the Pet Shop Boys was your interlude music. That's what I thought you were talking about.
No, I'm talking
Oh,
about
okay.
Wait,
Serge
we also
just
missed
in
that.
his element. In his element.
When we
well,
take
welcome
breaks
back.
to the beer temple, it's like death grips when we go out there, whatever, or trap, whatever,
You know,
whatever's
guys,
working.
you're welcome to come back down here whenever you want.
I think we're
Okay?
going to.
Are you going to be
Whenever
here?
you want. I'll come. I'm
like
here.
coming
You know-
back.
I was thinking
The next month at least.
this is still the community of the future, no?
Absolutely, it will always be that.
This is the future you were always dreaming of when that was the
It's
idea,
still,
right?
There's still more futures that I dream of, for sure.
Yeah.
When you see the Bridgecott Center on 4 lots of land with two flats on each flanking each side of it,
Helipad.
you
I'm
know
still-
the future has
Yeah.
arrived.
I'm waiting for the helipad.
Helipad's
hover-
back.
Well, it's more of a
Hovercraft.
hovercraft.
Hoverpad.
There's a hovercraft dock right on the Bubbly Creek, so we got that.
This is like one of those. What's the guy that built the corn cob buildings? He also built that one where you could park your boat underneath and you could
Yes.
go up. But this
Marina
is more
Towers.
of a Bridgeport on Damar vibe where you can like drive it right in like you're
park
floating
your
on the
car,
water, but
you-
it's a hovercraft,
Yeah.
and you go right up to your condo.
the Bridgecott.
So you
Yeah.
drive it. It's just a ramp that goes onto the road.
You
You just drive off.
Drive
I
off
mean,
the-
it's a
you just-
hovercraft.
Do you drive it right into your unit?
You drive it onto the
You
road.
just drive
it
it
does
on the
both.
road.
It's a
It does
hovercraft.
both. You can float on the ground.
There's a ramp.
Haven't you seen? I pulled up at the 39th
Look
annual
outside.
Independent Craft Brewers Conference.
I've
in
seen
the-
it. I've
in
only-
the hovercraft.
I've only seen it on the road, though. How am I supposed to extrapolate
There's
you
no-
onto
there
the
we go.
water?
Oh,
There's no water down
it's-
here.
Goes
Oh,
over
the
here.
Bubbly
It
Creek.
broke.
The
It
Bubbly
broke.
Creek.
It
Yeah,
broke
my
on
bad, my
Lake
bad, my
Michigan.
bad.
Speaking of which,
On the 4th of July.
there's been whispers in various corners of the Illinois craft brewing community for the return of the 40th annual Independent Craft Brewers
Yes.
Conference,
Yes.
and I think it has to
Wasn't it
happen.
the second annual, 39th
Second-
annual?
Oh yeah. Oops, sorry about that. The second 39th.
Well, wait.
annual.
Now I'm confused. Which award show are we talking about? We talking
Well,
about the
it-
40th or 39th?
The
Because
sec-
they're completely different.
Yeah, we're talking about the second 39th
Okay.
because King
The
Conan's
40th one will come back. It'll be another.
Well,
That's a whole
another one.
different thing,
Yeah.
different vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Because semi-annual can be every twice a year, or it can be every other year. What is if you do it every like 6th year?
Septannual.
Yeah.
Septannual.
Septannual.
The-
The 39th
Right,
annual
septannual.
septannual.
Oh, there we go.
It's like a leap year.
Exactly.
I remember we did this for the first time
Only
in
prime years.
1941.
We do it every year.
Yeah,
every
only-
leap year.
only-
You know,
prime years
and
unless
thinking
we forget.
Thinking about that makes me think about K-Tronica.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, is it true that K-Tronica is
Independent.
free agent?
Yeah, free agent. Free agent.
Listeners, you want one of the most established professional brewing
Sounds like a call to
consulting
action. Just break all the
people-
rules.
No, he's just
break all the
just
rules.
be
not
aware
yet.
of?
Not yet.
To be aware of?
to be aware of.
Yeah.
Ktronica.org provides some of the best
Yeah.
consulting in these dark times, these tough times. If you feel like your valuation has gone to 1/10 like Stone's, or if you feel like your brewery's only worth the
There's
equipment,
only one reason that happened. You didn't bring on
Ktronica.
K-Tronica.
Yeah.
So, there you
Genuinely
have
one
it.
of the smartest and most creative people I know in beer.
She
So
was,
I co-signed this non-call to action.
I asked if she could come on, but she unfortunately
Didn't
has
respond.
COVID. But she says she
Jesus.
wants to the next time around. So now
Great.
she's it's on the air, so it's part of the record that she said she wanted to.
Now you can't turn back, Kate.
Exactly.
You can't turn back from wanting to come on the show.
Exactly. From wanting to.
Yeah.
So
So many people want to come
so
on this
next.
show.
Oh, so many people want
Want
to
to.
so
Yeah.
badly. Few do. Many
They want to.
Oh my gosh, I want to.
Greg,
I
Greg
really, really
wanted to
want
come on the show.
Greg's
You
been
called him.
on the show.
Greg
I
has been on the
forgot.
show.
He has been on the show.
Greg's
it was like
been on the show.
It was a mobile app, wasn't
Yeah.
it? We should get him back on. See what he's doing.
True.
See what he's up to.
I
See if
thought
he
about
wants to
doing
come
that.
back.
Yeah, he's not returning my messages right
I didn't
now.
read the last paragraph of that, so let's see if he wants to come on the show.
Right.
Send his. It's Greg at stonebrewing.com.
Maybe that's
Yeah.
when he said craft beer has changed.
I do
It's
have
when
his
he came
email.
on
Yeah,
the show.
yeah. Once he came on, that probably was around the right time. He's like, sometimes the good thing he edited it out because you would be really upset if it was, sometimes in 2016 when I went on the craft,
I do
the
have
Beer
his,
Temple podcast,
his direct
and
email,
it ruined
by
my
the way.
life.
At Stone. I'm sure he's still.
I think
he's
a
gonna
lot
keep
of
that.
people.
Is it Greg
No.
at
It's,
stone.com?
it's getting
No.
forwarded to someone in corporate. There is no way
Okay.
that he leaves and he's like still responding to his personal emails.
I think a lot
But
of people.
also, let's do
a lot-
Craig arrogant bastard 69 at gmail.com. Probably going to
Forgot
work.
the first.
Probably going to work.
Yeah.
But I think I would just want to make a statement.
Yes, make a
that
statement, please.
I think that every person that comes on the show marks it as a time when the complete dissolution of their brewery occurred.
Why am I doing this?
Well, I just found out Big Beer won, so
Yeah, exactly.
I'm still
See?
getting over that.
Now you're going to go back to work going,
Are you
"Damn,
putting,
what
you're putting in your walking
what
papers
am I
on
supposed
the
to do now?
I'll be like, sorry,
They
Josh.
won.
Sorry, Josh.
Josh, I
It's
thought
like,
we were
what?
winning.
They won.
Ed told me they won.
Yeah.
Big Beer won.
No, Chris,
over.
don't you
I
tell
said
Josh
it.
I said that. Chris said it.
I've been saying it for years. Don't
think
worry.
Chris been saying it.
Surge. said
I
it.
still believe.
Yeah.
Surge said no. He
He's
doesn't
the
believe-
pu- he's the
Surge
puppet
is the
master.
Surge is the number one believer in independent beer.
A believer?
Believer, yes.
Yeah, a believer.
So
He also
Justin
likes
Belieber.
Justin Belieber.
He's a good guy. So, do we want to talk about side brands, side pieces, or do we want to talk
Yeah.
about
Nope.
beer side pieces, or do we
Do
want to talk
side
about
pieces.
Let's not call it
NFT
side pieces.
or a letter?
Let's not call it side pieces. Let's
the
do a
side-
letter.
Do a letter.
Let's
what about
do a letter.
Side brands. Side
We
brands.
Let's talk a little
we'll
bit about
call
side
it
brands.
side pieces.
Well, where is this coming from? The side brand piece. It could be just over in 5 minutes.
Let's just do it in
we
5 minutes.
we want to do some gotcha journalism on you.
Yeah. Gotcha. No.
Gotcha. You have incredibly
Ed is like,
seltzer
I don't
brands.
understand. People don't have like 30 different product lines and just all slap the same logo on.
So here's what it was.
Exactly.
It was.
I want to know what you're talking
What's the
about.
point of brand equity?
I'll
I did
talk
learn
about
something.
it. I'll be serious. I'll be serious about it. So Mike and I were one time talking about like episodes we could have for this show.
Don't
and
drag me into
one of the topics we talked about was, I think, a legit question that we felt maybe we leaned in one direction, but I don't think either of us were pretty dug in on it. Was our like split off side brands of a brewery for alcoholic beverages is what we were talking about at the time. A good thing, a bad thing, neither. We were just curious to get somebody else's opinion other than the two of ours, which at the time was pretty aligned and very positive, if I remember.
Very pro.
And
Yeah.
and
Well,
and that's what it came to. And we never got the show out, but I felt like it could be a topic we could
Yeah, I think
dig into a bit, if for 5 minutes.
Yeah, I think it would depend on the reason for the creation of the side brand. Is it because your current brand is stale and you just kind of need a facelift? Or I'll just use Revolution as an example. What if we wanted to do wild fermentation and we can't really do that at our current facility because cross-contamination? So let's say Josh buys another little facility that we just do wild fermentation. Would we call it Revolution, or maybe would we call it something else? Because it is kind of taking a different direction than what like our core brand.
Yeah.
Like
I have the name of that new facility for Josh, by the way, and it's called 1968.
Okay.
Okay.
That's a great
Little
name
red.
for a
Someone shut
wild
that door.
fermentation brewery. Okay, Josh, you're calling the new brewery 1968.
I should have actually asked Josh what I am allowed to say.
No.
But you're right.
No.
That's a great example
but
of
like-
how you would want to differentiate that brand and those product lines because you currently don't make those.
Yeah. And
That's
so
all.
And stuff like that's been going on since the beginning. I reached out to somebody who actually knows things and doesn't just have pure hot takes as thoughts,
I don't
which is
Sounds
Mr.
boring.
Filicki. I asked them about
I think his takes are
Lost
hotter than you
Abbey,
think.
Port Lost Abbey.
Yeah.
Because he does know that brewery fairly well. And that, I said, how did those start? And I know it started as Pizza Port. That kind of broke off into the more production facility, which became Port and Lost Abbey, I believe, at that time. And I think now they might be in different facilities and have been, I think, I always thought that they were in different facilities. I could be completely wrong. I'm pretty certain. Well, I don't know. Anyway, so that's a side brand. There you go. so there's one.
To me, this
That's
seems
a good example.
And
of
an
one.
This
old
seems
school one.
very much to be like a pornography / obscenity case of you know it when you see it. Where there's one that's like, oh, well, this is because your production things are different, or you're trying to express something different with a production of the beer, rather than just like, well, it would dilute our main brand to make seltzer. So if we call it like that, we're just joking.
Right. And I'm not
That was
talking about
probably too
like
specific.
Mars. I'm not talking about Mars extensions.
Right.
I'm talking about coming up with a different
Brand
name for stuff. Like, is it good to? I mean, we were talking about Phase 3 before, and I'm not saying it to pick on you, Eric, guys, whoever. I don't
He
hate
doesn't- he
you.
doesn't
I
listen to the
promise
show.
I don't hate you.
It makes complete sense to create a new brand because it's a different product category. The seltzers are a different product category for them, and it's a different.
I don't think
you think they're sharing.
I don't
the same
think they
audience,
actually
and they're
function
not.
that way.
They're
I don't
not.
think they. No, I think you're wrong in this because they're not making different stops to drop off seltzer versus the things they're dropping off their beer.
They
at.
opened up a few slots on the shelf.
For sure, but they're not like vastly different product categories when you're making smoothie seltzers. If you're making like White Claw seltzers, maybe. But when you're making like a smoothie, like mostly fruit puree seltzer, that's gonna like.
But that's a category. That's a style of seltzer people. As a kind of like a hot,
I think the
trendy.
the
And they-
Venn diagram of lactose IPA drinkers and smoothie seltzer drinkers is a singular circle.
But are most Phase 3 beers lactose? I don't think they are. I don't think they're
I don't
mostly
wanna-
lactose. I don't think
I
they're mostly
refrain
milkshake.
from
Are they?
commenting.
I don't know. I don't know.
I
I'm
don't.
asking.
I don't know either.
I don't know.
I don't think they are.
But them aside, not just specifically talking about one brewery, that in general, the smoothie seltzer side brands that a couple places have are a full Venn diagram
Who
overlap.
else makes? I don't even know. Who are the other
Smooge is a side brand
from what?
from Holmes.
No.
You didn't know
That
that?
is incredible.
Yeah,
God bless them.
yeah,
So that tells you something. I don't even know the related brands.
right.
And I'm a beer guy. And I don't even know that. Right?
Yeah,
Which shows you that it works, that side brand, Smooge, has taken over and become the preeminent kind of like milkshake seltzer, right?
I think they call themselves the OG smoothie seltzer. I think
Yeah.
that's
I
what
mean,
they call themselves.
They did invent it. I mean,
Yeah.
like they're
So the thing is, that's a great example of a successful new brand out of
They
a
don't have
company.
a bottle opener.
Right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you agree? They're probably selling more.
Absolutely.
They're probably selling more Smooch.
Way more.
Yeah.
Way more, I think.
I would love to get in on their co-op buy of their puree. Guys, if you hear that, it's another.
They're
DM
probably
me,
starting their own puree company at
DM
this
me,
point.
right?
So, I mean, and I'm trying to think of now of a seltzer brand that is aligned with the brewery. Just a Transient, maybe? One? I don't
Bud
know.
Light.
Yeah.
Oh, that's.
Are there
Okay.
any?
I mean, there's some like Oscar Blues has one that's called something different, but then says like Oscar Blues very small on the can.
Honestly, the only one that I know that's very prominent is the IPA hot water from.
Sure, Lagunitas.
Yeah.
Yep.
But that's non-alcoholic,
Yeah.
so it's different than what
Right.
we're talking about.
Yep.
But
What about
there's one
two
in every
different beer
like
brands out of a company?
Sure.
Name some examples of that.
Well,
Metro and
Solomoth,
Seeps, right?
Seeps, and then
Metropolitan.
yeah, I think that's
But those
kind
are
of a
two- that's like a contract.
thing.
Wait, what are you talking about?
Sipes and
Sipes.
Metro.
Oh yeah, Sipes
That's
is
a
contracted.
contract.
Yeah, it's not like a sub.
Solomoth has several,
They have Hidden Hand.
and then they also have City Water for
Yep,
seltzer.
that's a seltzer.
And then there's been talk about there being another one.
That's actually
for-
a good example of like I think them calling that City Water as a separate thing, like by Solomoth, made a lot of sense.
Okay.
Like it
Well, so
helped
does
the
Smooch
sales.
and this.
Yeah, it makes sense, but like
Yeah, but-
some of them is just like you're just doing.
So what about Hidden Hands?
Yeah,
what about
I-
Hidden Hands?
I think the real discussion is about beer, two different beer brands. I mean, seltzer is always, sometimes it's a different audience, right? Like, it makes sense for Solomoth to say, hey, we're not going to have a heavy metal, like, label and put it on a crisp, light key lime mango seltzer. Mm-hmm. So,
Sure.
but yeah, like with the beer,
So you're just saying anytime you make a seltzer, it makes sense to have a separate brand.
personally, I think so.
Sure.
I don't think that I would. I mean, I'm not a seltzer drinker
I don't
anyway.
think it, yeah, that's
But-
the
but,
thing
like,
is,
it's
it
like-
wouldn't matter to me, but then
like-
again, I don't drink them.
Well, that's what I think. This is
Like,
how this started, though.
you
Where
will,
that, like
though.
there are lines of like, why are you creating a separate brand? Is it actually because this is outside of the regular oeuvre of what you make, or are you just trying to like create some little buzz around something? So,
I mean, it's
sorry, didn't mean to step on you, Nick. My bad.
no, it's just like for me, when a brewery makes seltzers, it's like purely, I think, like a financial decision, and that makes it hard for me to support that. Not the brewery, but support that product. Like I've never met anyone who was like, I woke up this morning
Hey,
and
man.
I cannot wait to make this seltzer.
But what if you're a smoothie milkshake lover? If
Or
that happened
you're a
to be
unicorn, then. I mean,
right?
Well, then don't ask Nick. 'Cause
That's
Nick,
not a
he goes-
unicorn.
Nick's,
That's
Nick's
not
just speaking
that's
from his
not
own heart.
It's not a unicorn.
Yeah, no, I
No.
mean,
really?
The
Smoothie
milk-
seltzer lovers?
You tell me. You tell me. How many smoothie seltzers and beers are you selling?
guys, get Doug on the phone.
Yeah.
Doug,
Let's get some real data
Give
in
us
here.
the data.
No, that's what this show's all about. Not having the data. That's why it's live.
Exactly.
Let's go from our guts.
So-
We have an example. We
There's
have
also
an
like
excuse.
I do also love what you guys do, like Edmar and Mars, with what your brand extensions of coffee and your seltzers. Like I'm not just a straight up hater of a sub.
It's always
brand.
Mars, though.
I actually love them most of the time, and they're all
Sure.
Mars, and they're things that are like, oh, I want to drink that, and it's something that's new and it's something that's different.
Yeah.
It's not just like it. When we started this category, some of it seemed like, you just don't want to tarnish either your current brand or
confuse the consumer, etc.
yeah.
Or you do want to confuse them.
Yeah.
Well,
Or
but-
obfuscate things.
But like with Mars, you guys have such a brand history of like trying new things and creating like kind of pushing the envelope a little bit. So when you see a Mars seltzer, that is more attractive than seeing a random seltzer that someone doesn't want to put their name on.
And I think what you were talking about before, Ed, of being like your seltzers legitimately take up different space than like a smoothie seltzer, an alcoholic smoothie seltzer would.
Yeah.
Like your CBD seltzers or elixirs, I don't know if you're allowed to call those anymore. are in like health food stores.
Yeah.
They're in like they're in
different
places I
places they
go
can live.
where I'm just like, I actually
they're
I
NA.
do want to drink
They're
that.
NA.
And there's like they're delicious things that don't have a lot of sugar in them. That like when I'm driving around doing deliveries, and I'm like I'm really thirsty, but I don't want to buy just like a bottle of water. I'm like, oh, I can get something that actually tastes like things I want to drink. Yeah. That's different than like the side brand making like bubblegum flavored marshmallow seltzer.
But we are gonna we're making ready to drink cocktails, right? We're gonna make a hard seltzer.
Mars Hatton.
It's the name of that seltzer brand is Bubble
that's
Trouble.
free.
So Mars Bubble Trouble
That sounds
botanical
like some gut
seltzers.
rumbles.
5 words that you will never remember. But we're making a seltzer line, and it is co-branded Mars, of course. It is always going to be branded with Mars because the Mars thing, our thing is we want to make beverages for most occasions. We've seen the writing on the wall. We understand that diversification is the key to our survival, right? Mm-hmm. So that's why we have a distiller's license. That's why we make those NA beverages. That's why we make hemp beverages. We also make beer. And in whatever the category is, we try to make them better than everyone else's so people will buy them. And if they don't buy them, we don't make them anymore. They just don't exist anymore. So that's our strategy. But I thought about doing what you guys are talking about, like new brand, new thing, but it's not a good idea. It's for seltzer specifically, maybe if you're going to bang out tons of seltzer, it's a good idea. For an NA beer brand, maybe it's good to do that.
Yeah.
Because if I wanted to be a successful businessman, it would be better for me to create a new brand of NA products or whatever the
NA,
hot,
I think specifically
hot,
might make sense.
Hot whatever the thing is, to explore whether that could have its own growth and also not cannibalize sales of my own product from my shelf, right?
Yeah.
It allows an additional thing like, oh, you don't have any NA? You don't have any athletic? Try whatever.
You guys
Zarm. Try Zarm.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Zarm. It's Mars
So,
backwards.
because we act as our own distributor, right?
Zram.
We're self-distributing. Like, this client doesn't have an NA. We could fill that slot for you now, right? But never did it. I just never felt confident enough about creating a new brand because I create so many new brands that nobody knows about anyways. I have experienced that there's no way I'll never have enough marketing money. I'll never have enough traction to promote all the things we already do besides beer. Right. You know what I mean? Like it's super hard. Mm-hmm. But if I was just doing a brewery and I could start a seltzery, I would probably do it.
Is that what they're called? Seltzeries?
I just called it that.
Seltzerias.
Even have been something that
Seltzeria. Thank you.
We had this conversation.
I don't practice seltzeria.
Yeah.
I don't have a crystal ball.
Seltzeria sounds like cool. Kind of like desert mysticism, sorcery.
All right, but what if you had a space where there were 5 different seltzeria brands all under one roof, and they all
there's a pool
yeah.
and ping pong.
Yeah, there's a pool in the middle.
There's a lot of
there's
table sports.
There's floating seltz pong
Sounds
in
like
the pool.
sounds like a dream.
Pong.
Yeah.
And even go and borrow wild palms and do shuffleboard.
Did we just create Las Vegas?
Mm-hmm. Well, no.
No,
but we did.
There's also gambling.
But there is
we create Las Vegas.
We created the restaurants and bars in the White Sox stadium.
Oh, I haven't been in any of those.
There's a seltzer branded bar that took over your bar.
Yeah, Vizzy View.
There's a Vizzy bar. That just shows you.
What's Vizzy?
It's the saddest
I
thing.
think it's a Miller Lite
seltzer.
Yeah. You want to hear something very interesting that I heard about one of the dominant seltzer brands right now?
What?
High Noon. Like they're crushing
everywhere.
It. Mm-hmm. So I was talking to a buyer at a local chain with some significant buying power, and this person was telling me that High Noon was a dog, and they were considering dropping it. Nobody was buying it. The Barstool Sports sponsorship came, kablam, like boom, it is like number one, just like flying off the shelf everywhere.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you telling me that the typical seltzer consumer isn't doing their due diligence?
They're just
Or
like,
is
oh,
it-
Just say they just started marketing on Barstool Sports.
Not just, but
Yeah.
like a couple years ago, they're tied to bar. It's like a
They're like the
Snapple and
presenting sponsor, essentially.
Yeah. It's like Snapple
Isn't
and
that
Howard
incredible?
Stern from the
That is-
'90s, which everyone I'm
that is
sure remembers.
incredible.
Even I don't know that one.
That
Oh,
is
really?
mind blowing. Wow.
Yeah.
By
But
the way,
he made Snapple a thing.
by the way,
Howard
guys,
Stern, yeah.
new idea.
All right, what is it?
We open up a, in quotation marks, sports betting bar or tap room, and on all it's like going to Vegas, an auditorium. We have 1 million screens on the wall,
Yeah.
and on those 1 million screens, Russian ping pong,
Ooh, now we're talking.
All right.
bug fighting,
You know what?
Oh, we're back,
Chinese
baby. We're back to
basketball.
old school 70s
Chinese
gambling,
basketball.
fam. You're-
Bizarro.
all
you're a safe
bizarro
enough-
sports, and you just bring your own app. Bring your own app.
So
go
I-
ahead and bet, but hang out with a bunch of lunatics
Like
watching
lumberjack sports.
This is
Yeah,
like, this
right.
is
You like this idea?
This is like actually like the way you
Isn't it a
feel like
great
you were
idea?
at an OTB even like
Yes.
10 years ago.
You like
where
this?
like you can't just like
No.
you can't look up analytics about any
No,
of it.
it's
You don't know
just there.
anything about Russian
TV's
ping
on.
pong.
TV's
yeah.
on.
Competitive
that guy's
electrician.
big. I like him.
I've seen it. I've seen it on
Yeah.
TV. Competitive
But-
electrician
but-
work.
But the thing is, you'd
It's
have
amazing.
to
That rocks.
you'd have to let
Let's
people
go.
know
All the
what
screws in the
apps.
outlets have to be facing the same.
Is
Nick,
it-
you're our ringer.
Would that be illegal?
Is that real?
Yeah.
Would that be
Yeah,
illegal?
That's a sign of like a good.
Is that illegal?
I don't know, but if we're gonna do this,
I mean, we
illegal?
could probably get
have
licensed.
we have to include handball.
Yeah, sure.
Oh,
I used
whatever
to-
you
I
want.
used to go to-
Highlight.
Fine.
Cafe Prague
Our
for lunch and
people
watch
bet
like
on it, right?
Ukrainian handball.
They're
and
betting
it was
on
amazing.
it. They're betting on it, right?
I just assume all Russian people are betting on everything at all times.
Just an assumption I live my life
It's like
with.
lacrosse, but the basket's on your hand
Yeah.
in Miami. That's highlight, right?
All right,
Oh, yeah.
so guys,
Yeah. We gotta bet on that
before
up
we
here.
get out of here,
You like
we're-
that idea, then?
I love it.
Are we
We're-
all in?
We're running out of time.
But it's also serve yourself, and it's only seltzer brands.
Right. Seltzer
Yeah.
brand. Serve yourself.
Serve your
A
own seltzer.
beer hall with sports,
Yeah, sports betting.
sports betting,
Yeah,
and seltzer.
we've solved it.
Oh, yeah, seltzer
we
hall,
brought,
sorry.
we brought everyone together.
One of the seltzers is going to be so thick that it has to be a soft serve ice cream.
That's
machine.
right.
Yes. Yes.
There we go. There we go.
All right, we have 5 minutes.
I miss you guys.
We have a letter.
I love you guys.
Should
I
we-
miss you so much.
We have an electronic letter for anyone who wants to send an electronic letter. Insiders@craftbeertemple.com. I thought you might want to hear this one, Mike, because it's written to the indelible Mike Shalal.
Oh wow.
So this one's I've been waiting on this one for a bit. So I'll read it. We may not have time to say anything, but I think it's just a good one to read. And it was very nice that somebody took the time to write this electronic letter. So
Did my mom write this?
it may be.
All right.
I'm not exactly sure how to. It's pretty long. I'm just going to read the whole thing.
No.
I'm not exactly sure how to start, but I'm a longtime listener to the Beer Temple, dating back to the original video beer reviews. For years, that's all. That's long. That's like 10 years. For years, more.
than 10
It's
years.
more than
That's
10
way
years.
more than
For
10
years, I followed Chris and Margaret as they turned their vision of opening a beer shop for like-minded enthusiasts into reality, and even beyond, to become publicans themselves. It was the type of success only achieved by doubling down on good works, never resting on prior success, and all the while starting a family and living their best lives. Wow, I didn't read all of it.
Someone
Wait,
loves
did you
you.
write this?
This
one?
is
Like-
in love.
This one's about you, Mike, and it's about your family and
Well,
how great you are.
Yeah. I skimmed it.
Skimmed it.
From my end, it was not an uncommon occurrence for me to be listening to the podcast on Lumpin' every Thursday or seeking out a recommended beer from the show the following weekend. Though I wasn't there to share a drink with them, the camaraderie amongst the show's guests was infectious and motivated me not only to seek out those beers to revere, but to share them with good friends. We can hear that, by the way. Still, and from the beginning.
Turn that off.
When the pandemic hit, it's great. You own the station, Edmar. Calls to action, 2 curses.
There's no call to
right.
action.
You realize that's why they don't let me have my own show. You understand now? You get it, right?
Oh, I get it. When the pandemic hit, no one could have imagined the length and depth of the suffering ahead. As an employee of a state agency that provided medical services to children and indigent adults, I saw the widespread suffering daily as we maintained services for those in need. The following year, I took over additional duties as the agency expanded and services to expanded services to administer the vaccine. I saw my traditional 9 to 5 turn into a marathon, leaving precious little time for much beyond my family and their needs. As work and family took over the show, and my love of craft beer fell further behind me. When I did drink beer, it was more of a reminder of what was lost than a celebration of the now. I drank simple beers in complicated times and gained little enjoyment from it to the point that it became rather pointless. Last week, without any provocation, I looked up Beer Temple and saw that there were new episodes. Once everyone was in bed, I turned on the podcast and listened in the background. It wasn't long before the show drew my attention entirely, laughing at the many jabs between yourself and Chris, as well as wondering how much I missed in the last 2 years. I began to download a handful of episodes to catch up for lost time. The next morning, as I was making coffee and listening to the Hot Takes episode on stouts, my wife passed through the kitchen. She recognized Chris' voice and mentioned how nice it was to hear it again. Aww.
Yeah, this is really about me. All right.
She was right. It's like that of a good neighbor who has since moved away but has come back to wish you well. In the days since, I've listened to many of the 2.0 shows, and must say that I love the new format and the rapport you share with Chris. I even grabbed my long cellared beers and enjoyed it while listening to the other night, just as I used to years ago. It was a great beer to have with old friends. I look forward to many more in the days ahead. Thank you both for your amazing work you do for the Chicago beer community. I hope nothing but good fortune for you, your families, and your patrons in years ahead. Cheers, Omar Shaker.
Woo.
All right.
Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard, seen from again. Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard, seen from again. Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard, seen from again.